Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker, Mariella Frostrup on Times Radio.
Aidan Turner is an Irish actor who's been in the Tudors, starred as a vampire with a conscience in being human, portrayed the pre-Raphaelite artist Rossetti in Desperate Romantics, and Killy, the warrior dwarf, in The Hobbit. He won legions of fans as Captain Ross Poldark, the brooding, scythe-wielding Cornish hero in the BBC's classic costume drama remake. Now he's about to make a return to our screens as Leonardo da Vinci in a new series for Amazon Prime Video, exploring the life of the artist and inventor set against the backdrop of Renaissance Italy. The show attempts to unlock the enigma of this extraordinary and yet incredibly contemporary man in a fresh and original way through an untold story of mystery and passion. Aidan Turner, welcome to Times Radio. Tell me a little bit more about the premise of Leonardo and what was appealing to you about this multifaceted man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know a lot about Leonardo before I had done some research, really. It seemed like this script, this story, we're really trying to get behind the man behind the masterpieces and to try to get a sense of who he really was and what motivated him and the people he surrounded himself with and how he was influenced. So it just felt quite different. It felt like we were trying to get to an emotional center of this person instead of just the genius that we all know and the person behind the person who created these masterpieces. It felt very personal.
Is it difficult when you take on a sort of iconic role like that? I mean, obviously Leonardo da Vinci, we don't know, what he looked like. There weren't photographs and videos of him and so on. So that's probably quite helpful in a way in terms of inventing him yourself. But does it make it harder when it is someone who did exist?
It can to a degree, but you sort of think people as amazing, as incredible as this man was, people are always people, and we think as a young man he had a very fraught relationship with his parents. He was raised by his grandparents. He wasn't traditionally schooled, so we can piece together bits of his personality. I think that we can imagine who he was and how he was inspired. He went through Verrocchio school, so he was obviously very talented to even get into that workshop and quite a young age. He was quite famous and quite wealthy too. So, you just start piecing all these things together and seeing where the truth lies and where our truth lies. But yeah, a lot of it is imagined. It can be kind of terrifying, Stephanie, playing a role like this. But when you're trying to get to the emotional center of who this person is, it's less scary. He was a person. He was a man. And I suppose when you start focusing on things that you can relate to as opposed to things you can't, there's an in. If you can't get in through the door, you get in through the window.
And what about like basic skills? I mean, it might sound stupid, but wielding a paintbrush and so on. You have to look natural with those things. Did you have to do kind of painting masterclasses, or are you a bit of an artist yourself?
Yeah, well, we did have to do painting masterclasses. He was left-handed though, which made it that little bit more tricky. But yeah, I mean, his work would have been very slow. We had workshops in how to mix pigments and different things. But it's you can imagine how he did paint when you see some of his work. It's so precise, it's so detailed. It's not quick work. He's not Rothko. It's really detailed, delicate, nuanced moves. And we worked with a lot of artists who are reproducing some of his work for our show, and you could witness how they were doing it and asking lots of questions. But yeah, it was painfully slow, and a lot of Leonardo's painting would have been done by candlelight also, and there was different methods they used, but it was painstakingly laborious and slow, I think.
I thought you were going to say I worked with a lot of artists who were reprobates, and I was thinking never a truer word spoken. Was Leonardo a reprobate? I mean, I've only watched the first show, but he seems to have been a sort of, completely work obsessed in your depiction of him. I mean, really, really deeply passionate about what he did and not a lot else.
Well, I think so. I mean, he was the most incredible observer. I think he was interested in so many things and unraveling the mystery behind things. He wasn't just interested in reproducing some of this work accurately as it may have been. He wanted to figure out what made it work and why did trees branch this way, or why did the water run that way around his ankles. And I think he wanted to figure out all these things. And he wasn't just a painter, he was a sculptor, he was an engineer, a botanist, anatomist, philosopher. There was so many different things that he was masterful in. So I don't think there was a lot of time for being a retrobate, really. I think a lot of time he was just focused on the work. It seems that way. He's certainly accomplished so much.
And it's a pretty lavishly shot production. I couldn't tell for sure whether you were or you weren't, which is obviously in praise of the production, whether you were or you weren't in Milan. I think you were definitely in Florence. Tell me where it was shot.
We shot almost the entire show in Rome, in and around Rome. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic stopped us. We had planned to travel to a lot of different locations around Italy, but that was obviously we couldn't travel. I think we stopped shooting sometime in March 2020, and we went back again to pick it up in June. So right in the middle of everything. So it just put the brakes on a lot of our location work. But I don't think it's affected the show really. There was a time when I thought it might have done, but we found places in Rome that could double, and that with maybe some little bit of CGI here and there and different things. They can do all these things now so well. So we and then changing bits of the script and we just made it work really. So no, we couldn't travel like we thought like we imagined we could in the earlier days.
There's a lot of murmurations in the opening episode. Anyway, is that CGI? The murmurations? How do you catch a murmuration? I've been chasing around Glastonbury. There's a bird sanctuary there, and you're supposed to be able to go and see them. And it's really hard work to catch a murmuration. And you had about 5 of them.
Right, we did. I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to say CGI because that kind of ruins it a little bit. I like to think somebody's out there with the camera just waiting in the woods for days on end until he catches something. I'm not quite sure.
Welcome to my life. I think that I've got something to be incredibly jealous of you for, which is that I think just before the filming started shooting, there was a retrospective of Da Vinci's work at the Louvre, and you had a private view of it. Maybe not just one, but 2.
Yeah, well, I did. I got one private viewing is what I got. I didn't get 2 of them. It was a small group of people. There was 10 of us went in early in the morning. I didn't realize it was going to be this small group. I just thought it was a regular day, to be honest. The writer, Frank Spotnitz of Leondaro, had hooked me up with this. And we went in and then suddenly everyone was eating biscuits and drinking tea. And I was going, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to split to the wings straight away. So I just ran to the end of the gallery to start the tour by myself, because I knew I could get this time alone with the paintings. And then as time went on, nobody seemed to join me. And I was just in these big rooms alone with the paintings, which was just incredible. I mean, that was something that struck me straight away. It was just the scale. We're so used to seeing some of his paintings in books or, on a screen of some sort, on a laptop or TV or whatever it is. And just to see the size of some of these paintings was quite a surprise for me. The paintings like the Annunciation, just incredible. And the detail, the color that still radiates from these paintings, you quickly realize this is why this person is remembered the way he is. Just you get up as close as you safely can to some of these paintings. You can't see brush marks. You can't see. They look like high definition photographs, but just much better. It's stunning that they still have this quality.
Did you feel that you learnt more about him being alone in a room with those paintings?
It's a tough one because you think, I remember walking in and having those initial moments thinking, come to me, come to me now, let me feel something. And, this must be, it's such a poignant moment. It's so profound, but then, you let it go quickly and you take it for what it is. And it was just observing and witnessing seemed like the most important thing to do and not wait for something more celestial to happen or whatever. But it was, it felt important. It felt important to spend time with the paintings. I don't know whether my experience of shooting the series would have changed or not had I not spent that time. I think I would have longed to have done it. It just felt like the right thing to do for so many reasons. But I don't know. It's hard to know once you've done something whether it had an effect or not. I don't know what it would be like without, but certainly it felt really special. I mean, it's something I'll never forget. It's eerily special.
Yeah.
There's such a thing.
Eerily special. I'll keep that in my little file. Eerily special. Someone said to me the other day when I was talking to them, that was mildly amusing. And I thought that's another one that I'll put in my notebook. Yeah, moderately. Or more interestingly, that's another one that's a bit of a killer at a conversation.
the weather in Ireland sometimes can be fierce mild. I like that one.
Fierce mild is great. I'm going to bring the tone of the conversation right down now, because just briefly, it's widely agreed among historians that Da Vinci was gay and had relationships with his assistants, though early screen depictions of the figure, predictably omitted this fact. How would you say it's dealt with in this production? I mean, he has this platonic relationship with the woman he's painting, which is the sort of romance at the heart of it, but not.
Yeah, I mean, but we do show it. I mean, we play him as a gay man in our show. I mean, from all the historians that we had spoken to, and the writers and producers who have done so much research over the last few years to make the show, I mean, that's all the signs point in that direction. We hadn't seen any other productions prior to our one that had shown it, but it's been written about, and it's been written about many times. So it didn't seem like it's something that we ever wanted to avoid, ever. So we did. I mean, he had a very serious relationship with Salai, in the middle of his life and towards the end of his life. But I think it's widely recognised that he had many different relationships with muses and apprentices and men from different social standings. So I mean, it's something that we had to show in our production.
The writer of It's a Sin, Russell T Davies, said recently that gay parts should be played by gay actors. What do you think about that sort of prescriptive approach to acting? Yeah,
I mean, it's difficult in some ways. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to play this role if that was the case, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, it's he can absolutely say that, and that's his view, and I think in many ways he's right. But I suppose, where does that stop too? I mean, are you allowed to play different nationalities? Should English people be allowed to play Irish people? I mean, I know it's not, sexual orientation is a different thing, but we're here to pretend. It's acting, it's play acting, and we're representing a character. So much of yourself goes into a role, but I don't know. I don't see how that would necessarily matter, but I can see why Russell T Davies would think so. So I don't know. It's a conversation I'd like to have with him. It's tough to have it as a soundbite over in a radio show, but I'd like to know exactly why he thinks that, and present different arguments to see what he would make of that too. So I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with it, but he's definitely allowed to have that opinion.
That's a very reasoned Irish approach to the whole subject. This is Mariella Frostrup on Times Radio. I'm talking to the actor Aidan Turner about his latest TV role as Leonardo da Vinci. I said I was going to lower the tone a moment ago, but in fact I'm going to lower it even more now, because you starred in 5 series of Poldark. My family, enormous fans, watched every single series, which we never normally do. We normally give up after about series 2. Just haven't got the willpower. But of course it was beautifully shot, and it was, I think, very well written, and you play this tempestuous character, but unfortunately it was actually your body that became the object of people's obsession, and your bare chest became something of a national obsession. I may even have written in defence of you at the time. I was trying to find it today and I couldn't find it. But how did you manage all that sort of attention, as an actor? It's unexpected or not?
Unexpected for sure. I mean, I really didn't think, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal at all, because I suppose it wasn't. And the Tudors, I played a small part in the Tudors many years ago, and there was lots of sex and nudity in that show, and people didn't seem to mention it, So I guess our show was going out on Sunday nights on BBC One, and that was the reason for the attention, more so than what we were actually showing in the show itself, if you catch what I'm saying. But I don't know. I always found it quite strange. I mean, I suppose it pointed people to our show, and it put eyes on our show, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was slightly distracting, I suppose too. But being a man, I found it sort of slightly flattering and got on with it. I mean, I don't do social media, I don't Google myself a lot, so I kept away from it, and it just wasn't really a big deal. I think it was a bigger deal for other people than it was for me.
But I think a friend must have let you know, seeing as you don't do social media, that your hair even had a Twitter account. I mean, at that point it must actually become a sort of sanity saving situation not to go on social media.
I think it does for these things. Yeah, I was aware of the Twitter account for the hair. I mean, you get told these things and it's funny, but I'm not obsessive about looking at them or figuring out what it's all about. I think it was just fun for people more than anything else. You know, it does seem like such a long time ago. Like, I wonder even now if a show came out and had a similar scene as some description in the period drama, would people react the same way? It seems like we've even grown since that time. I don't know whether people would care so much or whether they'd make a big deal of it.
But do you think it's an unlevel playing field? You know, because now, of course, if people objectify women on screen, then they get into pretty bad trouble. Whereas it was like open season for you.
Yeah. Did it feel unfair? No, it didn't. I didn't feel unfair. It did feel slightly. The scales were tipping in one direction on that one. I mean, people. Yeah, well, it did feel like it was open day, but you know, I suppose it didn't bother me. I didn't mind. Not to say it was right or wrong, but I wasn't concerned by it. You know, we were in the middle of shooting a show at the time. It was just kind of funny, and we laughed at it and then forgot about it and got over it. And it was just as time went on, we started doing press for the show, and months later that the question kept coming up. And then I do an interview a year later again, and it would come up, and then the picture would be shown. I kind of thought, this turned out, this is a bigger deal than I thought it was. But it's not something that I cared much about, really. I just got on with it. I just kind of found it funny. But yeah, you feel like it probably wouldn't be, it wouldn't be treated the same way maybe if it was one of my female co-stars who was up there on the front pages wearing a bikini or something.
Indeed. Can we talk a bit about early Aidan? Early Aidan, your mum was an accountant, I think your father an electrician, but there was absolutely no way you were following in his footsteps, even though I think he brought you along with him a couple of times to show you the ropes.
Yeah, he's still an electrician, but it was too much, just too much hard work. I don't know, I never really enjoyed it. And he takes so much pride in his work, and he's so great at what he does. And I think he could see from a very early age that I just didn't care. And I think it was at that stage I realized that whatever I'm going to do, I need to care a lot about. You know, I need to love what I'm doing the same way he loves what he's doing. So it was an important lesson to learn early on that whatever you choose to do, you know, you're going to be doing it probably for the rest of your life. So choose wisely and pick something that will give you that great love and passion for what you end up picking.
And it wasn't acting initially, was it? Because I think as a boy you were a ballroom dancing champion.
I know.
You even represented Ireland. I mean, you were really good.
I was okay as a junior. Yeah, I was quite good. I mean, I quit when I was almost 17 or something, when you make that transition from a junior into the adults, the amateur professional ranks, and then it gets really hard. I think you have to be, you know, very, very good to continue. But yeah, I mean, from the ages of, I don't know, maybe I did it for 10 years, but from maybe 12 to 16, we were quite good. We were All Ireland champions, and we traveled around representing Ireland in different countries. And the ballroom dancing was more my thing as opposed to Latin American dancing. So, you know, waltz and tango and foxtrot, quick step, Viennese waltz, all that kind of thing was my bag. Yeah.
How did you get into it?
I don't really. It's strange when you're that young. I mean, I would have been 8 or 9 or something.
Were they doing it at school or?
No, I think my mum started doing it. I would go with my mum and wait while she did these classes with her friends. And then I think I don't know, I started that way. There was maybe a kids class that I started in or something. I can't really remember how it started, but it's a very competitive sport now. But so, yeah, I started competing and I quite liked it. And I liked winning and, you know, it's a good, you know, met a lot of friends and we would travel a lot, and the competition side I quite enjoyed. And I don't know, I just took to it really. It's one of those things that when you start, if you're young enough and you get into it, you start and you're quite, you know, you're all right at it and you start winning things, you sort of stick with it, and then it just becomes your norm. And I remember going to school and telling people, and they sort of didn't believe me, and then it just never came up again. I look back at this thing, why wasn't I given a hard time for this?
Were you not? You weren't teased or anything?
No, I don't think they believe me. I think I would tell them, you know, you'd come back in on Monday morning, you might have like fake tan on your neck, and they go, what's that? Like, I was at a dancing competition, I was doing this tango thing. They go, yeah, cool, of course you were. And then that would be it. It would just finish like that. I go, they're not believing this would happen. It's years later when I started doing press that I get calls and texts from friends going, we didn't know you were serious about that. we would have given you a much harder time, but no, I got away with that.
And so how did that then turn into a desire to become an actor? At what point? What happened?
I don't know. Like, I finished dancing, I suppose, 17 or 18. And I guess there was, looking back at it now, there must have been some creative void, there that I wanted to fill in some way. And I remember walking by the Gaiety School of Acting in Dublin, in Temple Bar, where it used to be. Was still there, I think, just a different school. And I just signed up. I just signed up for, I think it was like some sort of evening course thing. I was still in school at the time, doing my leaving cert. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I applied for the full-time course and I got in. I had to audition and I got in for it. And that was it. And then you're away, you're doing things. Once you graduate, you get an agent, then you're working in theatre. I started working with the Abbey Theatre, doing different plays, different companies touring around Ireland. My first show was in the Barbican in London. I did a Sean O'Casey play there. And then bits of TV things start happening, and then you're just doing it. It just kind of happens. I don't know.
I can't let you go, and I know we're going to run out of time soon, without talking a bit about The Hobbit. But it's a very personal question, because as a small person, I'm wondering how you felt to be digitally shrunk to play the dwarf king, wasn't it? I think Killy in The Hobbit.
He wasn't the king. Thorin would have been the king. It's a strange one. I mean, lots of acting to, like, green screen and tennis balls and that kind of thing. So it's not as fun as you might think it is. It's not like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where you suddenly get tiny and you're running around. It's more boring than that. You're kind of on your own. You're isolated, or you're with some of the other dwarf pals, and you're just, there's a picture of Ian McKellen's face on it, and you're talking to him for a little while, or whatever it might be. So, it was a strange thing, but I suppose, I don't know. It was a fun job. I mean, it took a very long time to shoot. We were out there for nearly 2 years, and it took even longer for the movies to be edited and put together. But I think it's work we're really proud of. I made a lot of friends during that time, and it's fun to sometimes, the movies still come on TV. Christmas time, you'll see it, or you're just flicking the station and it pops up, and you think, fond memories and all that.
And just finally, do you feel that it would be really nice to do something? I mean, I imagine that you'd be absolutely thrilled if somebody gave you a call now, a casting director, and said, look, we're looking for someone, but he's got to have a buzz cut and wear, like, I don't know, a pilot's outfit. Would you be thrilled?
I mean, that's probably the next... that's probably the next move. Yeah, I think I'm going to hang up the tights for a while, and maybe do something more contemporary. But it's always the work, It's when Leondaro came along and I read the scripts and I loved them. It's a job I just didn't want to let go, and that's what happens. You get offered something and it's something you really connect with. And would you be okay if somebody else, if you saw it on television with another actor playing that role, or you saw it in a movie theater with some other actor playing that character, and if the answer is yeah, you would, and then you have to do it. It's whatever if there's good writing there and it's interesting, it doesn't really matter what period it is. You want to be involved. But I do hear what you're saying. I think a buzz cut and a cool pilot's leather jacket is probably the next move. I'm on it.
You're on it. Aidan Turner, thank you ever so much for joining me on Times Radio. Leonardo is available on Amazon Prime Video from April the 16th.